before.
Good evening. This is the Planning Commission regular meeting for the City of Beaumont, Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. Call this meeting to order at 6:02. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Black?
Here.
Commissioner Clindris said he would be absent this evening. Commissioner St. Martin?
Here.
Vice Chair Smith?
Here.
And Chairman Stevens.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Black, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
All right. Before we go into the more of the agenda, I just want to say this is my first meeting here, and I have to look up at this monitor to see who is talking, whose mic is maybe unmuted. So just, have a little patience if I skip something or don't look up often enough. So with that, is there any approval or adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments to the agenda.
Conflict of interest disclosures. Any?
No conflict.
All right, this is a public comment period for items not on the agenda. In response to Riverside County remaining in the purple tier, which allows for modified indoor gathering, this meeting will be open to the public and conducted in a virtual format to be inclusive of all participation preferences. Public comment participation is encouraged by emailing any comments to the city clerk's office or by calling in using the phone number provided on the front of the agenda. That phone number is 951-922-4845. Do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda?
I have no written comments. Heather, do we have anyone on the line?
No, we do not.
Thank you very much. On to our action items and our public hearings. First one is the approval of the minutes. Are there any requests to speak on this matter?
I have no written requests. Heather, anyone on the line for this item?
No.
Are there any comments from any of the commissioners?
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
All right, and I'll ask for a motion, which is, of course, open to any of the commissioners virtually.
I'll move to approve.
All right, moved by...
I'll second.
Moved by Smith, second by St. Martin. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Black?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Martin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Stevens?
Yes. On to item number 2, which is the only other item on this agenda, is the annual development agreements review for 2021. And can we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Chairman Stevens. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Before you this evening is the annual development agreements review for 2021. All development agreements in the city of Beaumont are subject to resolution number 1987-34, which set forth the regulations and requirements for the city to enter into a development agreement and to review, modify, or anything else that goes along with it. The articles included in that resolution are listed in the staff report discussing applications, notices and hearings, how we review them, amending development agreements, recording them, periodic review, which is what's happening this evening, and then modification or termination. So Article 6 does require all development agreements be reviewed by the Planning Commission annually. The intent of the annual review is to determine if the property owner or parties involved in the development agreement are complying with the terms set forth in the agreement. The city is required to notify the property owners in writing of the annual review, as well as to publish this item as a public hearing. If the commission finds the parties in the agreements are compliant, the review period for the year is concluded. If the commission finds the parties non-compliant, there are a series of actions that could take place per the resolution. The city currently has 7 active development agreements. Of the 7 active development agreements, 1 project is completed, 1 is not yet active, and then there are 5 that are in progress. Each of the development agreements have specific terms and conditions that were agreed to by the city and the developer. Page 2 of your staff report has a chart which includes the developer, what the project is related to the development agreement, the start and end date of the development agreement, and the project status. At this time, I would like to defer to the commission on discussion of these development agreements and opening the public hearing as we need to do. Each of the development agreements are included in the staff report. The entitlements that are associated with them, the term of the agreement, some of the key points and whatnot. And then Carol, who's not in the chambers with us, but is back in the office, also has some additional information that we may be able to pull from as you have questions about these agreements. Since there are so many, I'm happy to go through them one at a time or defer to Chairman Stevens or the commission on what your preference is for going through each of the development agreements.
Is there any preference from the commission? For myself, I think each one individually, but I'd like to hear from the commission, the commissioners, if you have a preference.
I agree with you.
I'll comply.
All right.
Okay, so
And, I'm sorry, before we begin, Mcdonald Property Group, conflict of interest disclosure there. My company is in contract with them for drone surveillance and updates and basic progress updates
Sure.
that I do. So
we can save that one for last, and then if you'd like to recuse yourself, we can have you step outside and then come back. And then we can also, on the motion, we can, again, defer to commission and either find them individually or all together with the exception of Mcdonald Property Group, and then do that one as a separate motion so you're not involved in the conflict.
I think that's a good idea. Thank
Okay.
you. All right.
All right. Okay, and so you guys know, I can't see any of the commissioners.
Okay.
So if you do have questions and I keep talking, I apologize in advance. I'll defer to Chairman Stevens to let me know when I need to stop and answer questions.
I'll try to be your eyes and ears for the rest.
Thank you. So the first development agreement in the staff report is for Pardee Homes, and it is the Sundance Project, which is on the northeast end of town. And I believe we included a map in the staff report as well as an attachment that should show you where the different areas of town are that these apply to. This project is nearly built out. All of the regular single-family homes are constructed or nearing completion of construction. There are very few that are left, with the exception of the Altus component, which is the senior age-restricted single-family area. And I think we have there's a total of about 700 homes in the Altus that can be constructed, and I think we're probably 150 to 200 in on that. And they're moving a little more slowly than the rest of the homes did, but still moving nonetheless. This project started out as the Deutsch specific plan, was modified to be the Sundance specific plan. Some of the key points in the development agreement, which I think you'll see are consistent throughout the remainder of the development agreements, are it does allow for CFD formation. It does not lock in fee rates, so at whatever time a home is constructed, the applicable fees that are in effect are what would have to be paid. And this particular development agreement locked in the validity of the tract maps for the length of the DA. And that basically means the tract maps, once approved, are valid for the 25 years that the DA is in effect, which means they don't have to, they won't expire as a typical map would based on the timing in the Subdivision Map Act. So with that, I will pause for any questions about this particular development agreement or anything related.
Any questions from the commissioners? All right.
No questions for me.
No question.
Moving on.
Okay. The second development agreement is for, also for Pardee Homes, or with Pardee Homes, I should say. It is for the Tournament Hills portion of the Oak Valley SCPGA specific plan, which is what we refer to as the Fairway Canyon area out on the west end of town. Tournament Hills is a portion of that. The term of that development agreement, as with all the others, I believe, with the exception of one on here tonight, is 25 years. There are a total of 4,660 dwelling units that were initially approved in the Oak Valley SCPGA specific plan. I have 409 dwelling units in here as a total, but that was a mistype on my part. Carol, we said there was 1,000 what in there?
So for the Fairway Canyon portion is 1,640 completed lots.
Okay. And then for Tournament Hills, I think I had a correction on the number of units. It was a little over 1,000 in Tournament Hills, not 409. So.
Correct. That's 1,094 completed.
There we go. Thank you. This development agreement did allow for phasing, which if you've been in town or had an eye on anything going on out there, this project has phased in over a number of years. It does allow for a CFD formation, and the fee rates are not locked. So anything that comes in at the time of development, the current fee rates are paid. Any questions on this one? I'm happy to answer.
Any questions from commissioners?
No questions.
Okay, moving on.
And we will see some additional homes coming in Tournament Hills. They do have less than 200 lots out there left to develop, but those we have been in talks with, and they are in the works on that. So we will see the remainder of the Tournament Hills homes that are left built out here. Probably, I think they said starting February 2022, we should see some construction out there.
I do have a question on the fee rates.
Sure.
Does that include, that's your TUMF fees, all the developer fees that
Right.
are per unit established? Is there a percentage that those go up, or is that determined, how is that determined?
So the city's fees, we have a fee study, and then also depending on what other fees are, it could be based on a nexus study. So for TUMF and MSHCP, which are both paid, and those are regional fees, not city fees, those are set by the regional body. So RCA or WRCOG, whoever's handling the program itself, then is responsible for whatever the fee structure is, doing the nexus study, showing how those fees are justified, and passing that information along to the cities. The participating cities then have to agree to abide by whatever it is. Typically, the nexus study or the fee study has a lifetime on it of a certain number of years, and then every certain number of years that would be updated and the same process would happen. Similar in the city, So building permits are based on evaluation of the property, so it's a certain percentage, and that's set forth in, oh, now I'm gonna go blank because I need to know the word, but based on there's like construction cost index or something to that effect, so there's a percentage that those fees are based on, and then the city has a nexus study or a fee study for the other fees that would be paid, like your development impact fees and whatnot. And so our current fee schedule took effect January 1, 2018. And so we will be starting a new fee study sometime in 2022 to take effect in 2023 because we had a 5-year lifespan on our current fee study. So that's something that we've started talking about this year, knowing in preparation for next year we'll have to do.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And then I'll mention MSHCP because this is a good example of why you do want to update fees regularly. We're actually taking an item to council next week, updating the fees because the MSHCP program had not done a nexus study since the program took effect in 2003. So it had just been a CPI update, a small percentage. And so we're seeing some of the MSHCP fees for commercial and industrial in particular jump quite a bit because it's been, 18 years essentially since they really adjusted the fees. So anyway, all right. The next development agreement is the Sdc Fairway Canyon, which is the overall Oak Valley SCPGA specific plan, which I just referenced as being that Tournament Hills is a part of. So this is the whole document, the whole area, including Tournament Hills. As I mentioned above, there was a maximum of 4,660 dwelling units that could be built out there, including Tournament Hills. It does allow for phasing, fee rates are not locked, and it does allow for CFD formation. So I think you're probably starting to see a pattern right now of how development agreements were structured back in the early 2000s when we entered into these agreements with the developers. So I'll entertain any questions on this one as well.
Any questions from commissioners?
I
Just need some,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Smith.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mr. Smith.
No, you spoke first, go ahead.
Okay, so just for my own edification, can somebody briefly explain that CFD and the impacts? Because I understand that that's quite a hot commodity there, kind of a hot button for a lot of people. So I want to make sure that I understand how that impacts the agreement and how that works.
I'll try and give you a 30-second explanation. So CFD is Community Facilities District, and basically it's a financing mechanism that allows the infrastructure and improvements related to the project to be financed by the developer, and then those costs are passed on in the form of a tax, theoretically, you see it on your tax bill, to the property owner.
Okay, and that's typical city business?
It's very common now. It's very common, especially in California where the cost of development is so high and the cost to put in the infrastructure is so high. Most cities that you find between here all the way west out to LA and whatnot all utilize the CFD mechanism in some format. Some people do some cities do CFDs as well as LMDs, which are landscape maintenance districts. Sometimes they're combined into one. Sometimes the landscape maintenance would be included in your HOA. So it is a common tool, especially now. I think 20 years ago, I think this stuff was just becoming big as a tool for financing construction, but now it's very common.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Smith, did you have a question?
Yeah, I know they've got a bit more land out there that's still to develop. What are the implementing facilities for them to still be compliant with the development agreement? Do they have to have maps recorded by the expiration date? Or do they just need to have plans in or grading permits issued? At what point are they locked in?
So these they actually have vesting maps with this. Unfortunately, in a lot of these development agreements, there are no triggers for performance.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know what else to say other than that. I don't think the staff you have now that would be doing these development agreements would necessarily approach it the same way. Some of the stuff is very useful in here, but not having performance triggers or markers in something that spans 25 years, tends to be a little problematic on occasion. But in these specific plans and in this one, or in these development agreements and this one specifically, there is no trigger. There's just the expiration of the development agreement.
Okay. So, potentially, if it does expire and they haven't moved the project along, they would need to ask for permission then, because the specific plan's locked in as far as land use and development.
Right.
What that program is. They would need to ask for permission then if they wanted to pursue a CFD or if they wanted to phase or some of the items that were allowed as part of that development agreement separate from the SP.
Right. And we do have projects that phase and do CFDs without a development agreement as well. So, like I said, I think when these were built, these were maybe new ideas, the CFD and the phasing and things like that. And so that's why they were included. Now we have projects that will do this without a development agreement. And it's not terribly uncommon. I will say for both Pardee Homes and for Argent, who is the master developer out at Fairway Canyon, they are all moving on their entitlement. So everybody has construction going, everybody has plans in for review, everybody is continuing to move on their projects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Do you want to
Sure.
move to the next one?
Yep. So the next one we have is LV Heartland LLC, which is probably more commonly known to everybody as Olivewood, which is between the 10 and the 60 there, just west of Potrero. And this was originally, I think, being constructed by by RSI, and then it was Lion Homes, and then that was purchased by Taylor Morrison. So we currently have Taylor Morrison as the developer out there. They are constructing this development agreement has a few more points in it than the other ones did, and I'll just call your attention to the trigger here, which I think this speaks to Commissioner Smith's question somewhat from the last item, which is there's an option for a 5-year extension on the development agreement if at least 500 residential lots have been permitted by the original expiration. This development agreement also provides for establishment of an HOA. Although an HOA could be established without a development agreement, this one in particular calls it out, and it also outlines the HOA obligations. This development agreement also required a phasing plan, so it allows for phasing in addition to some of these older ones that didn't require a phasing plan. Also says if you're going to phase, we need a phasing plan. We have, again, fee rates are not locked in, and it does allow for some vesting of maps and extension of track maps as called out in the development agreement. So this one also speaks extensively to sewer treatment and facilities due to its location and the need in that area. That's been something that we have paid close attention to. So happy to answer any questions about this one.
Any questions about LV Heartland?
How many permits have they issued so far? And they're moving pretty quick too.
Let's see. I think Carol's.
Christine, I don't have that currently, but they are actively building. We are seeing regular permits come through for them.
Yeah.
I can find that out and report back to the,
That's fine. I was just, if you had it offhand, I was curious.
Yeah,
I'll email the developer right now and see if I can get that information right now.
okay.
Wonderful.
I know the document allows for, I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 900, between 900 and 1,000 homes to be built out there. I don't think that's what they have mapped. I think it's somewhere, it's south of 900 homes there, and they're probably 300 to 400 in, maybe even at that 50% mark already, as far as that goes. I know they've been actively constructing, and despite the transfer from RSI to Lion Homes to Taylor Morrison, they have not skipped a beat at all. They've kept everything moving, so.
All right, that's adequate enough of a response for me, Carol. I don't need an exact number. Thank
Well,
you.
but now I'm like, we need to update our sheet, so we can go
Okay.
ahead.
And I already sent an email to the developer, so.
It's kind of the nice thing about Zoom, you know, hate not being in person necessarily, but the ability to connect on things like this is a lot quicker sometimes. All right, we're down to our last two. City Ventures, which is probably known more commonly by a lot of people as Sunny Cal or Sunny Cal Egg Ranch specific plan. It is in the very north end of town, north of Cherry Valley Boulevard up there. And this DA has a term of 25 years and, you know, same other common elements as the other development agreements have, but this project is not underway. So they have looked at several options, and they have, you know, talked to us pretty regularly. They just have not yet pulled the trigger on filing for any type of permits or architectural review or anything like that. I'd like to say I think we're closer to seeing something from them, but, you know, it really just depends on, I think, according to them, the market and, you know, the demand for residential in that area. So anyway, that's really the cap on that. There are no triggers in there, so by being inactive at this point in time, they're not really in violation of anything. It doesn't affect their DA necessarily, except that the clock is ticking on the amount of time they have to develop their project under the terms of this current development agreement.
Are there any questions or discussion on City Ventures?
Chairman, why is that end date out so far to 3032?
Because the development agreement for this one was entered into, I believe, in 2018 is when it was finally executed. I know the project itself is old, but the annexation, I think, took a number of years to take effect. And so then the development agreement, I believe, kicked in 2018 with a 25-year horizon.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe it was 2017. I'm not sure on my math in my head right now on that, but
So they have completed the LAFCO process?
yeah, they completed the LAFCO process, and I think that happened right before I came on board with the city. So it's been at least 3 years that they've been done, but it was fairly recent compared to when their specific plan and whatnot was approved.
All right, not seeing any other questions or discussion on this. The last item is the Mcdonald Property Group. And do you want me to step out for this one?
Yep, go ahead,
Okay,
and
all right.
Commissioner or Vice Chair Smith can,
Nate, take it away.
All right, no problem.
we'll give Commissioner or Chairman Stevens a chance to step out here. All right, there we go. He is recused. He is properly recused at this time. So Hidden Canyon's specific plan is different from these others in the sense that it's for an industrial project. So it's actually now known as the Beaumont Crossroads 2, but the specific plan document itself is still referred to as Hidden Canyon. This has an EIR and plot plan entitlements, and I believe Vice Chair Smith and Commissioner St. Martin will recall that prior to the development agreement, we saw the plot plan for this back about every other year for re-upping the entitlements for this project. So the project includes 2 buildings at about 2.8 million square feet of industrial space. The term of the agreement is only 7 years, and the only key point of the primary key point of the development agreement was to extend the entitlements long enough to get the buildings through, being drawn by the architect, through planning review, and through, plan check and construction without the plot plans expiring. And then there was a previous owner with Hidden Canyon, the development agreement transferred, and now it's Mcdonald Property Group, which is also the developer who brought Amazon and Wolverine to the city. And as you'll notice on the map, the Hidden Canyon land is just to the west of those properties. The other key point in here is that it does establish, the amended development agreement does establish a maximum allowable sewer flow, and the city addressed that because with the demand for sewer and all the variable uses that could be allowed in an industrial building, we wanted to ensure that we knew what we were anticipating and could plan appropriately for service provision. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about this particular development agreement.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
No questions.
I know this site's graded, is there other active plans, start putting some infrastructure back there, or are they still waiting for a buyer?
So it's my understanding that, which this is all sort of unofficial as things go, but they are actively working on infrastructure plans. Vice Chair Smith, the property has been graded out there for a long time. And we have heard recently that the Mcdonald Property Group was working on tenants for both of the structures that are approved to occupy that site. So I do, and we are in pretty good communication with the representatives from Mcdonald Property Group. So I anticipate that sometime next year we'll start to see construction drawings come through and have a better idea of who the tenants are going to be.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, well, I will get, Nicole's going to go get Chairman Stevens real quick.
Should we vote before we bring him back in?
Oh, well,
Well, I think we'll
Yes, too late now.
that's okay.
we'll have to kick him out again.
We can kick him out again when we vote on McDonald Property Group, but we'll let
You
him.
just want to double up on your takeover there,
Right.
Nate.
There we go. That's right.
So, boy, I'm having the mask struggles tonight, you guys. I'm so sorry. So I'll wrap it up and then, okay, it's gonna have to be off. I'm more than 6 feet from everybody, so hopefully no complaints. The review of these development agreements is really intended to ensure that the city is complying with Resolution 1987-34. And as most of the commissioners with us now know, we started this process for the first time last year because at some point in time, the review process had been stopped for whatever reason. So anyway, we will continue to evolve this process and try and bring you better information each time we bring these reviews back. So both commission and the public have, the information that they need. And at this time, I'm going to recommend that the commission holds a public hearing first, and then staff is recommending commission determine the property owners and participants in the reviewed development agreements are demonstrating good faith and compliance with the terms of their respective agreements. I believe we'll need to take this in a minimum of 2 actions, which would be all of the development agreements with the exception of Hidden Canyon, and then one motion on Hidden Canyon with Chairman Stevens recused again.
You can just abstain from voting.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, thank you for that. So we've had one last call for any commission discussion. I know we did each item individually, but is there one last call? Nope, all right. So I'm going to open up the public hearing at 6:36 PM.
And I have no written comments. We have no one from the public here. Heather, do we have anyone on the line?
No calls.
Okay, going to close the public hearing at 6:36. Next is ask for a motion. So is there any commissioners that would like to move items? Well, we can do Hidden Canyon first if you want. So call for a motion for Hidden Canyon.
I'll make a motion for Hidden Canyon that the property owners and participants are demonstrating good faith and compliance with the terms of their agreements.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Martin,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Smith.
Yes.
All right, and I abstain from that vote, so
Sorry, I guess I can call your name. You can state it. You can state abstain. I'm sorry. Chairman Stevens.
I abstain.
Thank you.
So that passes 3-1, one absent, correct?
Yes.
All right. So now the other items, the other projects, do you want me to list these by project or by, would that be?
I think you can just move the remaining
the
development
remaining, okay.
agreements.
Yeah, you can lump them. Yeah.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the remaining developments?
I will move to approve, or I will move the remaining developments to find that the owners are demonstrating good faith and compliance with the terms of their agreements.
Moved by Smith, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Black, and a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Martin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Stevens.
Yes.
Awesome, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. The last item is the Community Development Director comments.
Oh, all right. So I have a few comments for you this evening. Nice to be with you guys. Let's see, I'm just gonna comment one more time on these DAs. As we go through this, as you maybe look back and reflect on tonight or you know, how things went, if there's any information or anything that would make this easier to digest, feel free to anyone email Carol or I, and we'll, you know, include that as we go through this, because it is a lot of information. Try and, you know, not overdo it, but we want to make sure it's also adequate for you guys to make a determination. So, okay, with that, I will move on to director comments. The first bit of information I'd like to share, which I think we've mentioned a couple times before, is the planning department's website is continuing to be updated. Carol is doing a fabulous job with that. We now have all of the new general plan, the new zoning, the zoning permitted use matrix charts that makes it very easy for anyone to see what a permitted use would be in any zone. The revised maps, I think the GIS is now updated to show the current general plan and zoning. So we continue to update and put new information on there for everybody to see. We've continued to add specific plans, documents for current projects that are in the works, even things like sign programs and whatnot are now on the website. So if you have questions about something, or the public has questions about something, they can very easily go and look, or if they can't find it, they can call us or email us in planning, and we can very easily send them a link and help them figure out where to find the information. So we're continuing to work on that. If you hear any feedback from the public, or if you have any feedback for us, please let us know. We're always happy to hear it and make adjustments as needed. The second item I wanted to mention is the Planning Commissioners Institute, which will be hosted virtually this year. I know a couple years back, Commissioner St. Martin and Chairman Stevens and I went in person back when we could do that, and it was very beneficial. And I think last year we did not have any attendance. I believe it may have been canceled as it happened right around the time that COVID was occurring initially. So we do have the opportunity to attend virtually. I have heard from a couple of the members here this evening that would like to attend. We still have some time to register, so if you need the flyer again or any additional information, feel free to let Carol or I know, and we'll get that out to you, and then we can get you registered. It is very beneficial. So lots of good stuff about CEQA and housing law and, things like that. So, and speaking of housing, we have our Housing Element Update Kickoff meeting scheduled for Thursday, March 18th at 6 p.m. It will be hosted, much like this meeting, both virtually as well as limited in-person participation available. We'll be going over sort of the nuts and bolts and basics of the housing element, which, what is it? Why are we updating it? What can you expect to see in it? What is the process going to be like, and all of that. I would absolutely love if each of you commissioners could pop in virtually or in person, whatever your preference is, to participate. We'll be sharing this information with the Economic Development Committee, also with City Council, obviously, and then pushing it out through the city's website and things like that. We also have the information on the planning page at this time. So if you know of anybody that's interested, feel free to direct them to the page or send Carol or I their information. We'll be happy to get them the information as well. So I'm very much looking forward to this meeting. And then lastly, the updated project list that I send out to you guys, or try and send out about once a month, I have not sent out yet because we have just had an influx of updated projects, and I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to get everything adequately updated and reflected on there for you. I think we're expecting a few more things to come in, so probably in the next week or so, I'll be able to push that out to you guys again with some new updates, and you can see the progress on some of the projects that have been on the list. With that, I have nothing else. Carol, is there anything that I forgot or that you can think of?
Not at this time, but I did hear back from Olivewood. I sent a chat, so I don't know if all the commissioners could see that. But they have completed approximately 200 lots. They're gonna get me a firm number later, but that gives you an idea of where they're at.
Okay. Thank you much. All right.
Thank you
that's
for
it
that.
me.
Yeah, just one thing to add on the virtual conference that Christina mentioned. When we went 2 years ago, approximately, found it beneficial. I've been filming planning commissions for 10 plus years, who knows, hundreds, and observing them, but there's, when you're sitting on the opposite side and learning from the professionals and meeting other experienced commissioners and staff there, it's just a different perspective, at least for me. So I highly recommend it and I'm going as attending virtually just as a refresher, just to keep up to date on everything. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, Carol and I will be attending virtually as well, because as good as it is for the commission to hear, staff always finds things to learn from, whether it's procedurally or legislative updates or, anything like that. So we look forward to it as well.
Great, thank you for that, for helping us register. All right, adjournment. Thank you very much, everybody. So have a good evening, and we're adjourned at 6:45. We will see you on April 13th at 6 PM.
Stay safe.
Thank you all.